how are you doing? How is everyone? I just had some time between my calls, so I decided to go live and talk about a few things that were on my mind for past few days. So basically what we're going to be talking about is how to be in-demand magnetic coach this summer. Like literally, I don't want it to be like, how do we do this in the next 30 days? How do we do this in the next 7 days? I really want to do something or talk about something which is like shifting in the moment, right? Like how do we create and cultivate that sort of like shift within yourself? And it is so possible, right? It's about everything that we do in our life. It's about choices and decisions that we make moment to moment. And that's how we shift. I had this idea wherein I was like, oh my God, it's going to take years of therapy. It's going to take years of work to shift mindset, or like, things don't just happen out of the blue and we have to do so much in order to change ourselves and all of those things. But the moment I realized that everything we do in our life, it comes down to the choices and decisions we make moment to moment. Of course, for that you have to be more present and be more mindful, which I know most of the people who are in my space, they're already like really far along their mindset journey. They know the importance of being present and all of those things. So now it's about really taking it to the next level and deciding for yourself that, you know what, the shift is right now, right? I feel like I'm getting so inspired to keep talking about this rather than being like, okay, fine, so here is how you become magnetic. Here's how you become confident. I'm feeling so called to inspire everyone to just be like, oh my God, like the shift is here. Like the time is now, right? Like it's not like, you know what, things are working. I know it's going to happen. It's in its own divine time. And I'm like, no, it's happening. It's happening right now. And everything that you say is how things will turn out. If you're like, you know what, it's going to take some time, this is a new offer, I took a break for a couple of weeks, I don't know how this is going to turn out, that's going to be the reality. But the moment we are like, I'm dropping all resistance and I'm like, this right here, this moment right now is where everything is going to happen, right? And that's exactly what has inspired me to do this live and speak about like, how do you become that magnetic in-demand coach like right this summer. Like I don't want you to be waiting for it. And here are a few things that I did, and I have been like working and incorporating these practices with my clients. And like the shift, like we have, like for a couple of my clients, we have really increased their prices. For another few of them, they were like, you know what, Aisha, I've been feeling so called to try this thing, or I've been feeling so called to do things this way. So I was like, why are we waiting, right? Like what is this ceiling that we have set for ourselves, that which is like having these imaginary red signals and green signals, which is like, okay, fine, stop, like you're not worthy, like you're not supposed to do this until you get this done, right? I say this all the time, which is like, if you're in the right headspace and you're like, this is the desire that's coming through, I don't want you to question it. Like from the past few weeks, I spoke about this on my stories as well. I was feeling so called to talk more about this woo-woo stuff that has been crazy amazing and have been doing so much. But I was afraid. I was like, how will I be perceived? People will be like, oh my God, like why is she talking so much about this stuff? Or like, I just want strategy. I had this belief in my head, which was like, people want only strategy from me. People want content tips, which is obviously like there's always going to be those things. But the thing is, I was stopping myself from talking about these things with a fear about how I will be perceived. But the reality was, I was doing a massive disservice to everyone by not speaking about these things, right? And the moment I started incorporating this with my private clients and like in other containers of mine, I started noticing shifts that were like, I can't even begin to tell you. I think it started with one question that a client asked me, and she was like, Aisha, I've had like so many failed launches. Like I have been talking about this offer for the longest time. I have invested so much in myself and things just are not shifting. Like, what do I do? And in that moment, I had to like, instantly, I had to be like, you need to process that disappointment first. And that's where this whole thing started, wherein I was like, I cannot like keep myself from talking about these things, right? So I think so many of us are in that space. In my community, I've seen this with my, in the other coaching containers that I am part of, wherein there is like, we're all carrying so much disappointment to the point that we are literally expecting disappointment, right? Before you even do anything, whether you're launching an offer, whether you're creating something, whether you're even making a content and stuff, or you're creating a new freebie, you already have that perceived notion that, you know what, it's not going to work for me. Like, no matter what, I have tried this. I have tried that a couple of times with multiple coaches. I've invested a lot and it hasn't worked. So even if you are doing the work, you are creating content, you are selling every day, there is that whole notion of like, you know what, it's not going to work out. Like, deep down, we need to firstly process that disappointment, which I feel like goes so unnoticed whenever we are doing things. We kind of get lost in the way of like doing. But it's like, we need to stop ourselves and ask ourselves, like, what is this disappointment that I'm carrying? What is this baggage that I'm carrying? And I'm just like, the moment we started doing this and we started like, I'm, with this, the more you discover the disappointment, you will realize that there is so much negative emotions. I don't want to say hate, but negative emotions that we carry towards other people in our space. Okay, I am not supported enough. This particular coach, I got ripped off. It wasn't a good program. This strategy wasn't right for me. So all of that is valid, right? Like, I completely see you in those troubles. I acknowledge you. I have been there so many times in my life. So like, not even business wise, life wise. But there comes a point wherein it's like, are you willing to detach from that identity of having things not gone your way? Right? Like, what is it that you're getting from staying in that state of like, you know what, things just don't work out for me. I don't want to say victim mentality, because this whole thing is kind of like demonized. Sometimes I agree, you need to accept that, yes, I am feeling overwhelmed, I am feeling like a victim, and you need to process those emotions. But the fact is, we're not processing these emotions by dumping this on other people, right? Or we're not processing these emotions out of like anger and still carrying that resentment and keep on carrying it. You process that emotion and then you let it go. You detach from that identity and you become like 100% honest with yourself, and you ask yourself, like, what am I getting out of this? Right? Like, what am I like really getting out of this? Just one second. So you basically ask yourself that, what is it am I getting out of this resentment that I'm carrying for my business, from my previous business coach, for previous failed launches, all those previous times that things didn't work out for me? What am I getting out of that? Am I making myself feel like, oh my God, like you have been through so much and things haven't worked out for you and all those things? But is that serving us in any way? Right? Things will happen to everyone. Right? Like, I'm not special. You're not special. We're all here to go through our own life journeys, to go through our own little struggles and trials and all of those things, so that we come out of it. We learn what we needed to learn from it, and then we move on in life. Right? We draw lessons from it and we move on. So that is like the first thing I want you to keep in mind when you are thinking about that glow up for summer, when you're thinking about being that high vibe entrepreneur, being that in-demand coach, right? That in-demand person that people think about instantly, right? So how do you become that person is, as I said, firstly, process that disappointment that is already within you and let go of that resentment, right? Secondly, I want you to, as I said, stop expecting disappointment and start practicing detachment, right? Like, I can't even begin to tell you, like, just a second. I can't even begin to tell you the number of times I'm a very sensitive person. I get attached to people, I get attached to things, I get attached to my own routines, my own plans and things that I have in mind, and I'm like, this is how it has to go, right? And this comes with a lot of like control issues as entrepreneurs and like, as boss ladies that we are. But I've realized that when we really practice detachment from our goals, so we distance ourselves from our goals, we distance ourselves from our past, we distance ourselves from our future, we distance ourselves from expectations that we have from our business, from people around us, from everybody else, the moment we release those expectations, that's when you master detachment, right? Like a practical thing. Like I used to hear people say this a lot and be like, detach yourself, don't be attached, practice detachment, all those. And I was like what? Like how do you do it practically? And lately I've, like, me and my clients, we were having this conversation and I was telling them the same thing. I was like there has been so many things that are like vague terms in coaching industry, vague terms in like personal growth industry, wherein we just don't get it. What does that even mean, right? So I'm really like creating like stuff around it, and I'm like, how can we demystify these terms, right? So one of them was detachment, and I used to like often think about these things, and I used to be like, how do you actually do it? So one practical way that I have been able to work this in my business is every time my focus is on someone else, whether that's people in your life, whether that's your business, whether that's your goals, whether that's your past, anytime you feel like the focus of my life right now is on this thing, right? Like the moment you catch yourself and you're like, okay, fine, the focus of my life is on my past, right? You move that back to yourself. The moment you realize the focus of my life is on this person, it's on how this person treated me, how this person should treat me, how this person is not supporting me. Again, the focus is on them. So you move that, you bring it back to yourself. Like, you have to be the center of your universe. I know that sounds super selfish, but sometimes we need to acknowledge and take that responsibility for your own growth. Take that responsibility for your own healing, for your journey, rather than putting the blame on other things, rather than being like, you know what, and being attached to these ideas that we have in our life, being attached to our future, which is something like when I first like became aware about this concept of like attaching yourself to your like your future, it kind of like blew my mind, because the whole manifestation industry, the whole law of assumption industry, the whole like personal growth industry is like, become obsessed with your future version, become obsessed with your future version. But you have to understand that even for you to literally have your future goals come into your life, you have to practice detachment from that. It's not going to happen if you place that whole future goal on a pedestal. You have to place yourself on that pedestal. You have to honor your human energy a lot more than you honor anything else. You like how much this comes a lot even with money, wherein you're like, okay, fine, that's the money, that's the goal I have in my mind, right? So I'm like so into goals and like being goal oriented and all those things, but there is time for you to like detach from all of that and let that focus light on yourself, like from the people on your life, in your life, from your past. Like I know some of my clients who are like so stuck in their past. They are like, but Aisha, that day this happened, and then because of that reason I am still not able to move on, and this particular thing happened, and this is why this has become like my identity. It is, as I said at the beginning of this live, it's all choices. It's all choices you make day to day, moment to moment. If in this moment you're like, you know what, I am detaching myself from my past, it no longer defines me. Because we know this, like we know this even as Muslims. We know that you're not your past, you're not your memories, you're not your body, you're not your mind, you're not anything that you associate yourself with. You're a soul. You're a pure soul that wants to do good. You're a pure soul that is inherently worthy, right? So the more you attach yourself to things, the more you attach yourself to people, the more you attach yourself to others' expectation, the more you attach yourself to how someone is looking up to you, how someone is validating you, how someone is giving you importance, right? Like even this is even translated to the online space of how much likes am I getting, how many views am I getting, right? Like, and then you fabricate a version of yourself so that you get enough likes, so that you sign enough clients, so that you become this person that, you know, everyone will be raving about. But let me tell you, you will get there. I'm not saying that might not work. It will work. But that feeling, that deep feeling that you have, you will still feel unworthy. You will still feel unloved. You will still feel like your opinions don't matter. You don't matter. And like you're dismissed. Right? So the more you detach yourself from all of these things, not only will you get to where you want to be a lot faster, but you'll also get there with ease, without burnout, without feeling like everything in your life has to look a certain way. This is like a lot, even when I'm talking about like goal setting and like visualizing and getting in the fields of having that thing happen to you. But again, the same thing happens wherein you're like so attached to how it should happen, how the money should come to you. This is exactly how it should happen, right? And that then becomes the resistance to you having that thing. So one of the best things that, another practical thing that I feel like I started doing, which has been so beneficial, is when I have a goal, maybe the goal is making 10K per month, maybe the goal is like 10K per week, whatever the goal is, I have that goal and tell myself, this is going to come to me in expected and unexpected ways. It's going to come to me in the most easiest ways. Like to the point that I'm just like, oh my God, like how did this work out? Right? That in itself helps you detach from it, and you're like, you're literally outsourcing it to Allah, and you're like outsourcing it to the internet to do the work for you, right? Rather than being like, okay, so how do I make this work? Like, how do I make sure that enough leads are coming in? How do I make sure that my freebie is working? How do I make sure, if you want to burn yourself out working, there will be ways. There will be ways for you to keep yourself busy. Your brain will keep creating problems. You will keep solving it. You will keep creating things like, okay, fine, so maybe the copy needs changes. Maybe the offer needs changes. Maybe I need a better funnel system. Maybe I need a better email marketing system. Maybe I need to create content this way. Maybe I need to be in multiple platforms. I'm telling you, your brain will keep creating all of those things. The more you are attached to your goals, the more you're attached to the amount of money you want to be making. So one of the best ways to be in demand, to be that literal version, that high vibe entrepreneur that you aspire to be, someone who has like years of legacy, like is building years of legacy, someone who's like in business and has that brand built for years to come. And if you want that will come when you are practicing non-attachment, when you're like, you know what, this is the specific clear goal that I want to get to. This is the amount of money I want to be making. This is the kind of life I want to be living. This is the kind of interviews I want to be doing. This is the kind of work I'm doing. This is how I'm appreciated. This is the magazine that I'm appearing in. This is the kind of books I'm writing. This is the kind of relationships I have. This is the kind of home I have. This is the kind of day-to-day life I have. You will get that. But the only thing is, you have to be okay with detaching yourself from it. You have to be okay with saying, you know what, it's going to happen, and I'm releasing that how. You're removing all of those things from the pedestal, and you're honoring your own human energy. You're honoring and really practicing trust that it's going to happen. Like half of the problems that I see in my clients and why they're not able to get to their goals is because deep down they're like trapped in their scarcity mindset. They're like, okay, fine, like I get it, like I want this, Aisha, like I desperately want this. This is what I want, right? But then you're so attached and so obsessed with it that you stop valuing your own human energy. You stop valuing what you are enjoying doing day to day, right? So another practical tip, because I hate the idea of like mystifying everything in terms of this. So another practical tip is have goals and desires and all those things in different areas of your life. So rather than obsessing about the money you bring in from your business, think about the kind of career that you want to have. Think about the kind of relationships that you want to have, right? Think about all of these other things wherein you're like, okay, fine, you're detached from it. You're not getting so hung up on how is this going to happen? How is this going to happen? It gives me an opportunity to focus on my money goals, and then I go out from this and then I start manifesting what kind of relationship do I want, what kind of career I want, what kind of rich lifestyle I want to live. And that allows me to detach from all of those things. So if you're taking anything from this live, really practice detachment. And as I said, like practical way to do it is keep thinking about it, being aware, like where is the focus right now? Is the focus on my future? Am I in that obsessive constrictive energy? Is my focus on my past? Am I trying to find out what limiting beliefs I need to work through every day? Like, is that even necessary? Is that even required? Like, do you really have to be doing that much mindset work? We're just obsessed. Our brain is obsessed with trying to solve problems, right? Use your brain to your advantage. The moment, like train your brain, the moment it's you're like, okay, fine, this person didn't respond to me, this person asked me for the price, they didn't get back to me, this person said I'm expensive, this person criticized me, this person made a face when I went out that day, this person did this. Move the focus back to yourself. Keep doing it. And as someone who's like highly sensitive, it happens a lot with me, right? Because I was obsessed with taking things personally. Everything. I used to be like, okay, fine, what I do, right? Like, did I do something wrong? That's like so deep rooted in our people pleasing tendencies. But you have to start being like, yeah, I get it. Like, doesn't matter, right? I have been focusing on this person for quite some time. That's not serving me. You move the focus back to yourself and you ask yourself, why do I feel this resistance right now? What am I feeling right now? Right? And if you feel like there's a lot of like negative self-talk coming up, ask yourself like, what is the emotion I'm carrying right now? Is this in any way serving me? Because we have discussed this a lot. No thought of yours is positive or negative, right? Your thoughts are either detrimental or supportive to the vision that you're creating. Start weighing them out like that. It's not negative, positive. Is it supportive to the vision I'm creating? No, I don't want to focus on that, right? And when I say all of these things, it's with a huge disclaimer that you're already doing inner work. You are working on yourself, but it's about you not becoming obsessed with the mindset work itself. You're detaching yourself. You're valuing your human energy, right? And I know, like, I had this conversation. So I had this conversation the other day. I was having this conversation with one of the mindset coach friends that I have, and she's talking about like rewiring your thoughts, like being mindful of your thoughts and all those things. But I realized that we are actually it's not in our control, right? I know, like, I just told you, like, rewire your mind and take back control of your mind and all those things. But I realized that it's not the thoughts that are bad. It's the assumptions that we build that are bad. Like, so then I had to like sit one day. I even gave this exercise to one of my clients, and it was like really like mind blowing, I can tell you. So sit down and write, what assumptions do I have about my online community? Like, sit with that. What assumptions do I have about my online business? What assumptions do I have about, not thoughts, right? What assumptions? Because they are what will shape your reality. What assumptions do I have about my ability to build wealth? What assumptions do I have about my ability to attract my dreamy clients? What assumptions do I have about my own self? Right? And you will like uncover such deep resistances that were so strongly there for the longest time, and you were like so not paying attention to it. So rather than focusing on your thoughts, get to the bottom of it. Focus on the assumptions, the wrongful assumptions that you have about, as I said, making your ability to make money, assumptions you have about your online community, assumptions you have about building wealth, and all of these things, right? Because that is like the real work sometimes. And as I said, like, the more you keep focusing the attention on yourself, taking responsibility for your actions, taking responsibility for everything in your life. And I know, like, at first it's like, is this like, will I become sort of like blaming myself? Like, will this, it's like self-blaming kind of a thing. But like, when you actually think about it, you have absolutely no control over anyone else, right? So what seems like a better thing for you is actually taking responsibility for everything that happened in your life. It was a product of something that you have had, some sort of negative insecurity that shaped itself into that insecurity. It does, right? And it's so hard to accept sometimes that I manifested that negative thing. I manifested that disparity to happen. Right? It's very hard, but you have to remind yourself that it's, even that in itself is a learning for you. Even that is like, this is how like I describe to myself when I'm having a difficult time. I'm like, oh my God, like, this is literally reality slapping me in the face and telling me, you know what? Look at this. Look at this. Like last week something happened in my life and I was like, why is this person making me feel this way? I love them. Why can't they love me the way I love them? Right? And I had to like really just be like, what is this trying to show me? In that moment I understood that I was being too available. Yeah, I was being too available. I was offering a lot of like advice without even being inquired about it. I was imposing myself just for the need to feel like I belong. Deep down, that's all we all want. We want to feel belong. We want to feel like we matter. We want to feel like we are connected. My God, like this conversation is getting so deep, but these are things that we need to keep talking about. Like taking responsibility for our own action. I know things must have happened wrongfully for you. I know things didn't work out for you and all those things. As I started my first, like the whole thing with taking your responsibility, processing that disappointment that you have in people, disappointment that you have in yourself, disappointment that you have been carrying around your business. These are all energy leaks, right? So the moment you're like, oh my God, like I'm such a good vibe. I'm enjoying my business. I'm enjoying where this is going. But instantly you'll be like, oh my God, but then that, right? And sometimes that is an indication for you to be like, okay, fine, what behaviors? So like when you're so good with working on your thoughts and working on your mental patterns, there'll be a point where you're like, what behaviors of mine are impacting and creating that resistance? What behaviors? As I said last week, I had to like catch myself because I felt like I was being too available for people. Right? I was just, and when I inquired with myself and I was like, why am I feeling this way? Why do I feel like I'm imposing myself or I'm trying to be loved? I had to ask myself and be like, how can I meet this emotional need of mine on my own? I had to sit down and journal for a bit and ask myself, like, why am I feeling this way? Why do I feel like this person needs to love me a certain way? Because deep down, I was feeling that, right? I know, like, it gets really difficult sometimes, but it is about that. You have to be okay with taking responsibility, taking accountability for your own actions, taking accountability even if it feels like it was completely the other person's fault. You have to be asking yourself, why is that need coming up for me? And the more you do this, the more you enable yourself to process your emotions and meet your needs by yourself. You become so powerful because you don't rely on validation. You don't rely on, oh my God, like, is this getting enough people's attention? Is this getting enough likes? Is it getting enough views? Are people valuing my opinion? Like, do people love me? Is it happening or not? You don't get hung up on these questions because you're like, you know what? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I got myself. And that is really the essence of practicing detachment. And when you are not relying on validation, you are the most authentic version of yourself. Your content is the most authentic version of what it needs to be to get you the most dreamiest clients. When you practice detachment, when you're not like fabricating a version of yourself, when you're fabricating content, your messaging, your brand values, your strategies based on what everybody else is doing. You're so strong in what you believe. You're so strong in your message that activates people. Your message that makes people feel something when they read even a single post of yours, even if you post once a week. I don't care. But if your message is so deep and it is literally wired to attract the right kind of people, activate the right kind of people, it's not going to matter. They'll want to buy out of desire. You don't need to handle objections. But that's not easy, right? Like I had that thing like strategy. I need strategy. How do I make sure this? Because that's external, right? It's not something I have to work on myself. When you're running business the way I teach you, you're going to need to go so much deeper. It's not going to be, Aisha, this template didn't work, this script didn't work. How else can I launch this? How else can I do that? The light will be on you. The focus will be on you, wherein you break through your own boundaries. You break through your own limitations. Wherein you're like, okay, fine, I get it. right? I know this is the resistance that I had in me, and when I fix that, everything is going to happen. When I like cover that one thing, things like random strategies are going to work for me. I'm going to talk about my offer, and randomly people are going to accept it because your message is so authentic, right? Like it becomes magnetic. You become magnetic. People will want to spend time in your energy. People will want to be activated by you. And these are not the principles of like, okay, fine, here's how to get like crazy rich in overnight. Like, here's how to get crazy rich in like 4 weeks. Right? But this is so much the essence of how you build a high value brand, how you be that high value entrepreneur. Right? So a few things, because I feel that the whole topic about detachment took so much of this life, but it needed to come out. Right? Like literally, I did not plan on saying all those things, but it felt like I was channeling it because I know so many of you need that. I know so many of you need to detach yourself from all of these external things. You need to detach yourself from your past, from your future, from the people around you, from your business, from yourself, from your memories, from the way your mind works. Right? And that's work. And that work, when you do this and you fill those gaps in yourself, it will take you 1/18th time to get to exactly what you want versus what it takes the other people. It might take someone 18 posts. It might take someone 18 weeks to warm up and launch their community. It'll take you one post maybe, because of how magnetic and how activating your message gets, how clear your content becomes, right? So we spoke about the releasing the how, and I also want to talk about a mindset practice. I would say 2 mindset practices. I would say that I use day to day in my business to shift myself in the moment. Right? The first one is when things don't go my way. Maybe I created an offer, it just fall flat, or someone backed out from their investment. Someone didn't re-sign with me, or maybe a post that I was so excited about didn't do as well. Anything that is unfavorable, or it is literally my 3D reality telling me that, my God, like it's not working. It's like it's reflecting to me an insecurity, maybe like a fear of mine. Immediately I'll be like, oh my God, that's really weird. That literally doesn't happen to me. I will literally say that. I'll be like, oh my God, that's weird. That literally never happens to me. Whenever things don't go my way, whenever things are out of my control, and that's how it's showing up, I'll just be like, oh my God, that literally doesn't make sense because my people love buying my stuff. Oh my God, like that literally doesn't make sense. Maybe something's wrong with this, but that's not my reality. That's something that literally never happens to me. Rather than going down that spiral of like, but why did this happen? And all of that. Of course, you need to be having set times in your weeks wherein you are processing those things, but moment to moment. Because if every day I'm sitting with my journal and spending 2 hours journaling, okay, why this didn't work out? How did that make me feel? Which past trauma is this triggering? I'm going to be sucked in. I'm not going to have the energy for my clients. I'm not going to have the energy for my kids. I'm not going to have the energy to be myself. Right? So have structured days in your week wherein you're actually processing those beliefs and those things, but also shift yourself in the moment. Right? The next thing is, every time I feel like, oh my God, like I'm in that obsessive constrictive energy, I'm like, okay, so what is going my way? And it doesn't even have to be business wise. I'm like life wise, what is going my way? What's working? Okay, so I had that, I found this really amazing high fiber diet, and it's been doing so good. Like I'm having so much energy lately because of that, high fiber diet. Right? Or I was really struggling to let my son do this, but then this happened. It's not about like having everything in your business and like finding wins and forcing yourself. It's about what is going my way this time. It's not even about what can I celebrate, because we have this idea that we have to celebrate only money wins. We have to celebrate clients signing up. We have to celebrate big things. But it's about like momentary things. Oh my God, like I had this content idea the other day and it took me like 2 minutes to write it. That's something that's going my way. right? I had someone inquire about this offer. It wasn't even ready yet, and they were so interested. That's going my way. I wanted to have this particular brand of coffee, and my husband got it for me. That's going my way. Rewire your mind to keep thinking about what's working your way. And the moment something is not working for you, you say, my God, that's weird. That literally never happens to me. Right? So this is how you shift yourself in the moment and not get sucked in day out with like, oh my God, things never work out for me. Why is this happening? And all of that. Like if you give yourself this month, this 4 weeks, and as I said when I started this live at the beginning of it, I said it doesn't take you a long time. You need to master shifting in the moment. You have to make that decision, that choice right now, that this summer I am going to be that high vibe entrepreneur. I am going to be that magnetic entrepreneur that people are drawn towards. People can't stop. People can't wait to buy from me. People buy out of desire. My content is perfect. My messaging is perfect. Everything is working out for me. You can make that decision right now. Right? So keep these few things that we spoke about. Mastering detachment is a big one. Because it's going to take you time, because you are going to get hung up on this person did this didn't work out that way. Last year I planned a launch, but that didn't happen. What if I launch this again and this? And you expect disappointment, and that loop keeps on going and going. This is like in the first month of when people start working with me, this is the first thing that we do. We shift your identity. We shift the way you think about yourself. We shift the way you look at yourself. Your idea, your self-concept is what we work on. Right? It's like how you see yourself. We will transform that. And when when you shift the way you see yourself, you jump a reality. And that's exactly why I said, if you want, you can shift right now. You can be that high vibe, in-demand entrepreneur right now. It doesn't have to take you weeks and months and years. It's about you deciding and changing the way you see yourself. And that work, oh my God, it's going to open doors for you. It's going to be like, oh my God, like Allah is conspiring with me in this. This is not real life. Like, how is this working out? I remember like 2 to 3 months ago, I had this crazy desire to go back to corporate training. I don't know if many of you know this or not. Back in 2019, I used to do corporate training, and I would love it. I loved being like training employees and doing soft skills trainings and confidence and all those things. It gave me a why. It gave me a high. And I had that, and I was just like, but it's been so long. But what if like the market is saturated right now? But how will this work out and all that? I was like, this desire is calling to me. And I set that intention. I was like, you know what? I want to start corporate training this year. And the moment I set that intention, things are outlining in that way. I have been seeing, I'm seeing signs. Because I decided and I shifted from the person, instead of being like, oh my God, like, will this work for me? But it's been so long. But how will I make it? What if like it's been years and I don't know, it's giving me anxiety and all that. I shifted and I was like, you know what? This is the reality of my life, wherein doing corporate training is like a weekly thing for me. People pay me thousands of dollars to speak for them. I'm doing trainings weekly for corporates. It's just something I do. Right? So when I shifted into that identity, now like it's like the moment you do a dua, like even that's how we're supposed to make duas. We're supposed to make duas with like crazy conviction, when you're like, I made this dua, right? And now it's going to happen. So now you're not like, okay, fine, so how do I do this? What if this doesn't work out? It's like you're not even trusting that Allah will provide you with that thing. You have to, it's like you decide that I want to do this, and then you go and design your Pinterest board for it. It's like, okay, fine, this is like, I really want to travel this year. Maybe that's a desire that you have, or maybe you're like, I want to write a book this year. And your first instinct should be, it's done. Right? And you go around and you're like, okay, fine, what should be the name? And someday you're like, how do I design this? How will I be working on this? Right? And everything will start automatically lining up in that manner. I can't can't even begin to tell you because the craziest things have happened the moment I decided that, okay, fine, this is going to be my reality. In 2019, I had absolutely no idea about online business. I had no idea about online coaching. COVID hit. My daughter was just like a few months old. I had no idea what I had to do it. But I was like, you know what? I want an online business. I don't care. I don't want to minimize my human energy and work like a 9 to 5, which is not going to serve me. I was done writing copy for others. I was like, I want to have my own business. I don't know how it happens, but I want to have an online business, right? And that, like, from the day I made that decision, in a few 3 to 4 days, I saw an ad. It was like, oh my god, like, how is that even happening? I saw this ad by a coach, and they were like, here's how to start your business, and there was like a rough breakdown. I signed up to her program. I didn't even have the full investment. I just had like the first payment installment. But I took that leap of faith. I was like, I'm going to make it work. And I did. In 1 month of signing up to that program, I signed like 3 clients, and I paid off that coach with the money that I made in that duration of 2.5 months. That's the power. That's the power when you shift your identity. Like, this is like everything that you want, that even if for a little bit, there is that deep voice within you, which is like, you know what? This is possible for you. How would it be if this was your reality? Even if it's that desire is speaking to you like that, follow that desire. Look at yourself doing those things. If it's like, I want to be an accountant, I want to be a lawyer, I want to write a book, I want to like travel the world, I want to make money doing this, I want like an FBA online business, whatever it is, start seeing yourself and trusting that it's possible for you more than anything, right? Develop that abundance mindset. Oh my god, like, I had so much fun talking about these things, and I hope that you enjoyed this. And if you have any questions, like always, you can hit me in the DMs, and I will try to make a live about this or try to create content around it, because I love serving and I love like this exchange of energy, right? And if you're like, Aisha, like, I have a business and I want it to grow, it's something that I've been wanting to do for the longest time, DM me. Let's get to know each other. Let's get to see how we can build out your vision. If you're a seasoned entrepreneur and you're like, Aisha, I have tried everything in this space, right? I have done it all, but I still feel like things are not clicking for me. DM me. I'll let you know about the Hypermind. The Hypermind, like, it's the 4th time I'm going to open it, and every time I've had like seasoned entrepreneurs on there, seasoned coaches who have had tried everything, but then they shifted the way they think about themselves, they shifted the way they create content, they shifted all of those things, and as a result, things exploded. They have been able to make 3 times their investment. Some of them have gotten government funding for their businesses. That's how impactful this work can be. Right? So DM me so that we can start your journey, build out that life that you've always wanted to make. Like, that's all I would say. Bye.